Calling all lovers of mystery and fans of a good story. If you haven't already heard me talk about June's Journey, you're in for a treat. It's time to don your detective hat in this free hidden object mobile game that delves into the captivating journey of June Parker, a self-proclaimed detective on a quest to unravel the mystery surrounding her sister's untimely death. In June's Journey, you get to play as June, deciphering clues and unveiling secret plots within thousands of beautifully illustrated scenes. And did I mention it's set in the glitzy 1920s? New chapters are added weekly, so you will never run out of new thrills to uncover, and you can also personalize and decorate your very own Orchid Island where the story takes place. How sharp are your detective skills? Find out when you download June's Journey on your Android or iOS device, or play online via Facebook Games. Your detective journey awaits.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Burntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I uncover the blasphemous truth of a plague-ridden world, that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Burntwine, coming January 2nd, wherever podcasts are available.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Reno from Loverboy.
Hi, this is Joe Satriani.
Hey, I am Brandy Rhodes.
Hey, I'm UFC fighter CB Dollaway.
Clay Milliken, driver of the Parts Plus, Great Clips, Top Fuel Dragster.
What's up, world? This is your favorite comic, Tony Rock.
Hey guys, this is Kendra Sunderland, Vixen Angel of the Year.
Hey, this is Jimmy Chamberlain.
Hey, it's your boy J-Rock from Sunnyvale Trailer Park. You know, I'm Sierra Era Egg, and you listen to my boy T-Biscuit on the Toddcast podcast. I'm out like I sold something.
When you get an NHL rule named because of what you did to a goaltender, your name is Sean Avery, and you'll know Sean from playing with the Red Wings, the Kings, the Stars, the Rangers. A good player, the kind that you want on your team, but not so much when he's on the other side. He's a shit disturber. Would you guess that he got over 1,500 penalty minutes? From the leukemia comment to the heckling incident, the sloppy seconds comment, the restraining order, you've no doubt kept up with Sean Avery's life, and he's a guest this week. Joining Sean, as always, we have 3 guests each podcast. You'll know her as one of the hosts of Naked News. Marina Valmont is also a guest, and you'll hear from our musical guest in literally seconds. Coming up in 15 minutes, in Listen to This, Canucks PA announcer Al Murdoch, one of my mentors as well. I learned so much from him at the very start of my career. Al talks about landing the job of the PA announcer for the Vancouver Grizzlies when the NBA was in Vancouver. That was super cool. That is powered by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, RV service and repair, ICBC accredited. You can find them online at tedcorvsuppliesinc.com. First, our first guest of 3, as mentioned, this week's musical guest, H2O guitarist, Juliet and the Licks lead guitarist, and the touring bassist for The Offspring, Todd Morse. That's brought to you by Pineapple Sound, a recording and mixing studio in Langley since 2013. They also welcome podcasts, voiceover actors, and lots more. Check them out at pineapplesound.com. So yeah, you'll know Todd Morse from H2O, which is a punk band he had with his brother Toby, lead guitarist in Juliet and the Licks, and the touring bassist for The Offspring. Talented dude, a super nice guy as well. He started following us on Twitter, and it wasn't long before we reached out to say, hey, would you be down to jump on a Zoom? And you'll love how Todd was engaged with the conversation, pretty forthright, especially so when we were talking about being in a band, starting a band with actress Juliette Lewis. He's a really good buddy with the guys in Sum 41 as well, which we find out. They have a little punk project together as well, if you hadn't heard about that. Google the Operation MD. Good talk. I think this is about a half hour long. You can hear that now at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube accounts. Search it out through Toddcast Podcast and subscribe while you're there. In the meantime, here's 10 minutes with H2O guitarist, Juliet and the Licks lead guitarist, and the touring bassist for The Offspring, Todd Morse.
The Toddcast Podcast.
I'm curious, Todd, what's the music in the Morse house as a kid growing up then? Like, is it right out of the gate that you're kind of, thrown into that world?
No. I mean, my mom was like into like, Neil Diamond and, and classic rock. And I remember one Christmas she bought me a Kiss 45.
Nice.
I think
like Love Gun or
might have been
something like that.
Shouted Out Loud, or
Yeah.
And AC/DC, and I really grew up on like classic songwriting, which I think sticks with me now when I go to do my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point when I was in school, I really didn't feel like I fit in with any type of group. Like all the long-haired dudes that were listening to Zeppelin and Rush and stuff, like I don't know, I wasn't cool enough for them, and whatever else was going on. And some kid, this is really going to date how old I am, but some kid gave me an 8-track with Circle Jerks, Group Sex on one side and Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks on the other side.
Like, bing, that opens up your eyes.
I was like, wait, I can play that. I
can
do that. And then it led to the Ramones. It come full circle. I just did a live stream with Juliet and the Licks, which is my band with Juliet Lewis.
Right.
And we were rehearsing over here in the Valley, and we came out to take a break, and we heard a band rehearsing in the next thing, and I was like, oh man, that sounds amazing. I was like, who is that? And they're like, that's the Circle Jerks.
No way. Nice.
Like my first ever punk I ever heard.
Yeah.
We're just standing outside, like rocking out, listening to them rehearse. It's a weird world I live in.
That's pretty crazy. What was the first show that you saw? What was your first concert?
Black Flag.
Wow.
And I've talked about this a couple of times too, because there's some people there, but there's a place called the Channel in Boston. It was with Henry Rollins singing, and I'll never forget because the band started, and it was punk rock and hardcore like was really dangerous back then. I mean, like you could really get hurt at a show.
Totally.
I mean, and so I was scared, but I was like, "Where's Henry? Where's Henry?" And he came crawling out from behind the drum set, no shirt on,
nice.
like an animal,
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm in. This is.
And how old were you for that? Like you were like teenager or?
Yeah, I was a teenager. We rented a U-Haul. I was living in Rhode Island. We rented a U-Haul and put chairs in the back of it, and all of us sat in chairs and rode up to the show.
Yeah.
And when we got to the parking lot of the Channel, we rolled the thing up, and all the kids had gathered around thinking we were the band.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
You
don't forget that stuff.
No, of course not. That's what's shaping you where you are today.
Yeah.
What's Bob Rock like to hang out with? He seems like a pretty cool guy.
He's great. He's like a music encyclopedia, that guy.
Yeah.
And he's got a great ear for, he can tell you, you can listen to an AC/DC record and he'll tell you exactly what amplifier and what guitar was being used.
That's crazy, right? Like those, like
Yeah.
there's music geeks like that everywhere, man. Like in Vancouver, if you talk with Garth Richardson or like Mike Fraser and all those guys, like they're the same fucking style, man. They're all just like, they totally are geeked out about it, and it's great, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have satellite radio, but I'm kind of like a amateur music trivia buff myself. Like there's a great channel on Sirius XM called Volume. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
No.
But that is just the nerd out rock channel where it's just talk about music all the time.
I love that
and
stuff,
you can
man.
learn about the record and how it was made, and And there's this guy Eddie Trunk. I don't know if you,
I know Eddie Trunk. Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And
I think that's one of like they're just musicologists.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things, Todd, that I don't know how old are you? I'm 47.
I am at level 54 right now.
You're at level 54. Okay, so you got me by a few years. You're like the level above my brother's 50, so you're like the next level above my brother.
I just started saying level instead of
I love it. You've made it to level 54. I love it.
I made it to level 54.
Nice. That's a big
gamer.
level. But I think that's one of the things that's missing from today's music, and I think that's why it's so like disposable, is that there's no more like sitting on the floor in front of the the record player and reading the liner notes and like reading the lyrics and all, like that doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's
another thing that this guy Bob Left, I always pronounce his name wrong, but that I was listening to on Volume, and also Eddie Trunk was talking about how you like the song, you had to go buy the record if you wanted to hear the rest, and so people had to make great records, or else you weren't going to buy another one, and that was it. You wouldn't hear the band's next record because, and the package and everything was part of it, and it was really special. And it's hard to gauge if anyone in the new generation is really missing out on that. It's really hard to gauge because it's from a time, you know.
Yeah.
But I do think that rock and roll music and guitar-based music was cooler when you had to search for it, you know?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you felt cooler about finding it when it wasn't so accessible, you know?
Right.
But at the same time, you know, this whole thing about rock is dead or whatever. I mean, rock is not dead. When they say that, they're talking about the mainstream. They're talking about the Billboard charts and everything. But I'll tell you what, if DJs just started playing more rock would be mainstream again, because that's people learn about music through repetition of hearing it all the time. It's what they're feeding us. It's not because we go out and play. I go out and play with all these bands all over the world, and there's fans everywhere for guitar music. You know,
yeah,
everywhere. They're still there.
No, it's not going away. Let's get outside of music, Todd, and what you're known for. What have you been binging over the pandemic? Like, what are the shows you just can't get enough of? Because, of course, we're all doing it right now.
Yeah. Well, I just finished Your Honor, the Bryan Cranston thing.
Okay. Haven't seen that yet.
I'm a huge Breaking Bad guy, so I also watched Aaron Paul had one, Truth Be Told, which was another cool one.
Yeah. Did you get into what was the other one? Better Call Saul?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love Better Call Saul.
Pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty solid.
It's really starting to go into Breaking Bad now. Well, I heard that they've really got stalled on production of the next few episodes, but
right.
I love Peaky Blinders. I'm waiting for that to come back.
Yeah.
What else do we get into?
Did you get into the WandaVision? Are you a fan of comic books and all that? Like, how good was that? Because that was like the first episode. I was like, this is weird, man. This is just not what I was expecting. And of course, I gave it another chance. I'm a huge comic book fan, right?
Yeah.
And then by second episode, it just got so good. And I heard that that the Disney Plus servers crashed because of how many people wanted to watch the season finale of that.
Yeah. It's a slow burn start, and a lot of a lot of my friends like Pete Parada, the drummer from Offspring, and our new backing guitar player Jonah Nimoy. They're super comic book guys, and they said the same thing. Like, they weren't sure at first, and then they were just fully in. What I love about it, it's the first superhero series that I can watch with my kids. And like my daughter, I come home from like a rehearsal or something. My daughter's like, new WandaVision. Like, you know, she's 7, you know, and you know, some of it's a little scary. And it's the first time she's been able to watch like something that intense, you know?
Yeah. And I think what I like about it is it goes back to when we were little kids, where we had to wait till next Friday to see the next Cheers, or, you know what I mean? Like,
I know
it's kind of nostalgic for us, right?
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to really get, you know, into the metaphors here, it's the same thing with having to wait for a record to come out before you heard it, or having to go to the store to buy it. It creates this appreciation and anticipation of art that, I don't know, I just think it's a give it to me now nation, you know, like,
oh yeah,
you know, the dead Kennedys were way ahead of their time with give me convenience or give me death, you know.
Yes.
Like, it's like,
big time. You know, because that was the other part of, you know, growing up as a kid. It wasn't only just waiting for the albums, but it was also, you know, you didn't have internet. And if you wanted to learn about the band, you best be buying Rolling Stone and Spin and Circus and all those other magazines.
I love looking at Spin back in the day.
Yeah, man. You know, and it was like, you know, I don't know if you got Good Rockin' Tonight where you're from, but it's essentially, you know, MTV or, you know, Much Music kind of thing. But like all of those TV shows too were very like super influential for a guy that was or a girl that were music fans.
Did you guys have 120 minutes up there?
120
MTV
minutes.
120 minutes. It came on at midnight. Do you remember that?
No.
That was where, like, you know, that was where we first saw, you know, the first Offspring video, the first Faith No More video. You know, like, that was our, like, you stay up till midnight to see something new and cool in music videos, you know.
Right.
That was the first time I saw the Cro-Mags was, I believe it or not, now I'm friends with, John and those guys, but that We Gotta Know video was, I was like, oh my God, these guys are scary.
Musical guests of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Pineapple Sound, providing recording and mixing services for a wide range of artists and genres since 2013. Check them out at pineapplesound.com.
Getting out my mind, all these wanted sounds, no apologies, whiskey therapy, we're just killing time. Devil water, I've been running free, keeps my sanity, drinking ain't no crime, it's my alibi, we're just doing me. Devil water, abandoned by my self-control, I got here on my own, at least I'm not alone. Stuck inside this carnival, with clowns and kindred souls, is where I call my home. Devil water, I got my devil water. Rinse and repeat is my destiny. I don't feel no shame. In flames, dead on my knees. Devil water, abandoned by my self-control, I got here on my own, at least I'm not alone. Stuck inside this carnival, the clouds of kindred soul is where I call my home. Devil water, yeah, I got my devil water. Oh. Kerosene taste, abandoned by my self-control, I got here on my own, at least I'm not alone. Stuck inside this carnival, oh, with clowns and kindred souls, is where I call my home. Devil
now, listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
If you've been to a Vancouver Canucks home game at Rogers Arena in the last decade, Al Murdoch is on the PA. Al is one of my radio mentors, truly instrumental in helping my career take off. Just a gem of a human being. He's a natural on-air performer, a powerful voiceover talent. He's the voice on so many radio stations across North America. The guy's a stud, no question, one of the best. And when Al stopped by the podcast studio, we talked about how he met Phil Donahue. Zeppelin came up. I made him pick his favorite Vancouver Canuck. We got into radio and marketing, triathlons and fitness. Selena Gomez came up. So did Steve Stamkos. Overrated bands, binge watching TV shows. And Al shared the story of how he got the PA announcer job for the Vancouver Grizzlies back when the NBA was in Vancouver. Love this story. Listen to this.
The Vancouver Grizzlies were holding open auditions. And how I found out about that was actually after the fact. So as soon as I saw that story, I immediately phoned Orca Bay and I said, who is the guy in charge of hiring the PA announcer? And they told me. I said, I'm going to come down there right after my show, but can you wait? And he said, well, no. And I went, oh, he goes, why don't you come tomorrow? So here's what he did. He goes, okay, he got me to read a few announcements over the system.
Yeah.
And then he sat me down and he put on an old videotape. This tells you how long ago it was. An old videotape of the Houston Rockets playing the Phoenix Suns. And he just turned off the volume. And he went, call the game. So I was sitting. Thank goodness I'm a huge fan, and I knew some of the players that played on Phoenix. And if Hakeem Olajuwon would score, I'd give it my Hakeem Olajuwon, the big read. And he immediately, after about 10 minutes, he kind of shut it off. He goes, you got the job.
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC approved repair shop. Find them online at TedcoRVSuppliesInc.com.
All the people from around the world stand up, start a riot. Let the feeling run out of control and just lose yourself tonight. Push it a little harder, take it a little further. So stand up, yeah, it's time to commit to the shine. A little like you're not giving a shit. No, don't you run away. You've got me right by your side. Say you don't want to conform to all things you left behind. Crack the surface, break the floor. We're not part of their design. We'll rise up together, take it to new heights. Who wants to succeed? A little more, baby, drop our sleeve. You say it's getting crowded, so what you gonna do about it? Push it a little harder, take it a little further. So stand up, yeah, it's time to commit to the shine. A little like you're not giving a shit. No, don't you run away. You've got me right by your side. Say you don't want to conform to all things you left behind. Crack the surface, break the floor. We're not part of their design. We'll rise up together, take it to new heights. Time for the real test, to break down the weekend. We're going for the deepest heights we've had to climb. The fears we're facing, the years that we're chasing. Stop all the wasting all our precious time. No, don't you run away. You've got me right by your side. Say you don't want to conform to all things you left behind. Crack the surface, break the floor. We're not part of their design. We'll rise up together. Yeah, we'll rise up together. Take it to new heights.
Absolutely loving that sound. The band is Waterfront from a province over, Lethbridge, Alberta. Great sound from those guys. Once the pandemic's over, it's in the rear view. Maybe we see if we can drag those guys into Vancouver to play a podcast show. Don't you get the feeling that those guys would absolutely bring it? Played you another Alberta boy as well, Kyle McKerney, and his song is Devil Water. Kyle's a good buddy of the podcast. In fact, his old band Hard Honey provided the music for the podcast. The the big fat riff off the top. Kyle's now banging out some Americana, and his manager Jeff slid me, I think it was 3 or 4 songs from the soon-to-be-released album, which is incredibly solid. Big fan of Kyle. Not only is he a good guy, but he's one of my favorite singers as well. We'll no doubt keep you in the loop when everything gets announced and released. Okay, Todd's Trolls is also coming up in just a bit. The stupid, mean, hurtful, but really it's the funny things that people say to what you post, what you see online. This week, Sting, Godzilla vs. Kong, and the 2021 Winter Military Games bask in that beautiful spotlight. Powered by our friends at The Garage, Games and Geekery in Maple Ridge. It's your place to play. Warhammer, D&D, slay trolls, and a lot more. Find them online at garagegames.ca. First, the second of 3 Toddcast guests this week is our sporting guest, retired NHL left-winger Sean Avery. Brought to you by Joyce Heating Services, family-owned and operated, heating the Lower Mainland since 1960. And when it gets too hot in the summer, hit him up for air conditioning as well. As mentioned off the top, you'll know Sean Avery from playing in the NHL for 12 seasons. Signed with the Red Wings as a free agent in 1999. Played with the Kings, the Stars, the Rangers as well. He's certainly no stranger to controversy. Recently jumping on social media to talk about being hit by a car out for a run, smashing off the driver's side mirror. The hilarious post that he threw up about Tyson Barrie. We get into that with him in the full conversation. Sean finished his NHL career with 90 goals, 247 points, 1,533 penalty minutes in 580 games. The full 27-minute conversation is definitely worth hearing. Search it out through Toddcast Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. Till you hear that, here's 10 minutes with retired NHL left-winger Sean Avery.
The Toddcast Podcast.
What's your first hockey memory?
Man, first hockey memory. I think funny. I think I've told this story before, but like when I was younger, the first NHL game that I ever saw was I saw an exhibition game. The Quebec Nordiques played. I'm not sure who they played, but the game was in Kitchener, Ontario, at the Kitchener Auditorium. And first NHL player I ever saw. I waited by the bus after the game with my dad, and Owen Nolan was walking out. The reason we were there, my dad played for, the coach at the time was this guy by the name of Dave Chambers. And hockey cards were big back then. So I knew who Owen Nolan was. And I walked up to him to get an autograph, and he kind of looked at me, and I can still like remember it clear as day. He was like, yeah, he looked down at me and kind of put his hand up and said, "Fuck off, kid, not today." Like he must have had like a shitty, it was exhibition, you know, who knows? He was probably hungover or just disinterested. And that was kind of the first memory that I had of like seeing an NHL player in person. And it was funny, I think 10 years later, it's probably 10 or 11 years later, I played against him and we lined up on a face-off, and I told him that story, and we had a pretty good laugh about it.
Yeah, that's great. Great first memory. And how old are you when you realize like maybe I can go pro? I can go all the way.
I think when I was probably 13 or 14, I probably made the decision that was the only thing I was going to do. I don't think in my mind I was thinking I have what it takes. I think I had just more the mentality of like I was going to play in the NHL. Mm-hmm. And that kind of took, you know, I look back on it and say I should have done some things differently. Like I basically stopped any interest I had in school whatsoever and only thought and focused about hockey. But yeah, I think I made the decision more than I realized I could do it, which I think are kind of two different things.
Oh, two completely different things, of course. Yeah. And playing with the Red Wings and the Kings, the Stars, the Rangers. Which team was your favorite to play on?
I think it's definitely New York, but also Detroit was pretty special because one, that team in 2002, I think was probably maybe the best NHL team ever assembled, just from a pure talent standpoint. 12 or 13 Hall of Famers, guys like, Dominic Hasek, like interesting guys that was a hell of a team. And then I was so young to be introduced to the league in that fashion, just from the pace of practices and how the guys dressed and how they talked and everything. It was pretty special. And then obviously I think when I got to New York, that was sort of what felt home from a playing standpoint. I think my style kind of meshed with the fans of New York. And so, yeah, I think I'd say it was a toss up between those two cities.
And just playing in the rink in New York must have been just like electric every time, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's, before they did the renovation, I think it was definitely the best arena in the league. I think now it's still, it's Madison Square Garden. I think even on a Monday night at MSG, you walk in that place and you can feel it has a special vibe to it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Sean, I'm getting ready to talk to you this morning and I realized that you had over 1,500 penalty minutes.
Really? I didn't know that.
What's the most memorable 10 minutes for you?
Oh boy. Man, I think there was a game in Chicago where at the end of it was sort of at the end of a shift, I got into a scrum with Bob Probert and I kind of took a shot at him, like a cheap shot that I shouldn't have. And I remember going into the penalty box and thinking, like, I wish I could just stay here for the rest of the game and not have to come back out of there. Because I knew, like, I saw his eyes kind of glaze over and I thought he was going to kill me. So at that point I was thinking if I could just stay in the box the whole game, I wouldn't have to come back out. That's probably the one time where I can really remember sitting in there pondering life.
Yeah. The longest 2 minutes of your life. Sean, when I mentioned that you were going to be a guest of the podcast, of course, there's a ton of podcast followers that would love to ask you some questions as well. So I grabbed a few of the best ones.
Yeah.
I think this is interesting because I want to know as well. Brandon wants to know, what are the best and worst locker room pranks that you were involved in?
Man, I wasn't much of a prankster, but there was always one guy on each team. Now, we used to do these things on the road called leaners, which is you'd fill a garbage pail up with like a hotel garbage pail up with water, hot water, and you would take it and you lean it on the outside of somebody's door and you do the whole like knock on the door. And when they open the door, it would lean into their room and it would soak the whole front of their landing. That was always like sort of a classic one that I kind of thought I enjoyed it. I didn't like the ones when guys, you get your laces cut, shit like that. That was always, I didn't like ones where sometimes guys would cut guys' sticks. So they'd go out and they'd take a shot and like fall over because the stick was already cut in half.
Yeah. That's just annoying.
Yeah, exactly. But the leaners were always good ones.
Yeah. Brad wants to know, what do you think about the no fans in the stands, the fake crowd noise?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, it's got to be pretty tough to play with no fans. I think I didn't know that they were pumping it into the arenas. Is that because I've only seen it on TV, so I thought they were doing it through the TV. Yeah, I don't know. I just think in general the whole no fans thing is tough. Like I kind of commend these guys that they've been able to play through it with some sort of intensity. I don't think it's an easy thing to do for sure.
Rob goes, man, I disliked his antics, but ask him about how he feels about a rule being named after him. And what did the NHL say to him about what he did to distract Brodeur?
So, yeah, they never said anything to me, actually. They
lost your video there. There you
go. I woke up, I went to bed that night after it happened, and I woke up in the morning and they had just kind of announced the rule, which I think looking back on it, or even at the time, it wasn't even really legal. They weren't allowed to do that. You had to go to the Board of Governors meeting to get approval to do it, and they hadn't done that. So I think that was it was more shocking than anything. Like, literally, I went to bed that night and woke up in the morning, and they had already sent out a press release saying that there was this new rule. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely. I've got a rule named after me.
It's pretty awesome.
I don't know if it's still there or if they still refer to it as the Avery rule, but even if they change the name, I think we all know where the origin of it for sure.
Yeah, that ain't going away. This feels like a loaded question. Sarah wants to know, what's your best Tortorella story?
Tortorella story. I always tell people, like, the way, so Tortorella can't skate. He can't he can't skate or pass, or he definitely can't do both at the same time. So sometimes there's a drill, a warm-up drill that teams do. Coaches are on the dot outside the blue line, and everyone just kind of skates around. You pass to the coaches pass it back to you, you go in, you take a shot on the goalie. So anytime Tortorella was doing that, I would just lean into it, fire like a hard zinger of a pass to him. And it was everything he could do to just take the pass and stay on his feet and then make the pass back to me. It was kind of like an ongoing joke that everyone knew, like, they'd stop and watch like what kind of pass I was going to give him. But yeah, he was I've had a few coaches that couldn't actually play hockey, which I think is sort of, yeah, that's a tough one. It's odd, definitely.
Sporting guest visits of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Joyce Heating Services, a family-owned and operated heating business serving the Lower Mainland since 1960. Online at joyceheating.com.
Hauntingly familiar.
Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca.
A look at this week's keyboard warriors, Todd's Trolls, on the Toddcast podcast.
And it is everywhere you look online. It can be especially bad on Twitter, Facebook, the chirpy, garbage comments made with the intent to get somebody riled up. No one and nothing is safe, not even Sting. You could argue he fronted one of the most influential rock bands of the early 80s, The Police. Sting's new solo album was released this past Friday, March 19th. It's called Duets.
No offense, of course, but Sting can tantrically screw off. If this was Sting the wrestler putting out an album, maybe it'd be worth checking out. Seriously, he hasn't released a good song since the 80s. Like, dude, just retire already.
Coming to theaters as of this weekend, March 26. Personally, I can't wait for it to come out on Netflix. What did you think of the teaser trailers for Godzilla vs. Kong? Because they released a few of them. Eye candy, lots of CGI, the battle of the ages, Kong and Godzilla clash, global destruction in their path. It looks good.
I'll take movies that didn't need to be made for $1,000, Alex. They're making movies like this, and there's millions of people living on the street. Cool, cool, cool. Check your brain at the door because IQ points will be lost.
And the Winter Military World Games starts up today in Germany, runs March 2-3 to March 2-8. Be honest, did you even know that such games existed? It sounds like there's potential for some pretty good content.
Military games? Wow. Talk about shit TV. Redneck much? Imagine actually wanting to watch these games. Can I get a yeehaw?
Todd's Trolls on the Toddcast podcast is powered by The Garage, Games and Geekery, your place to play RPGs, board games, and Warhammer in Maple Ridge. Online at garagegames.ca.
Yes, I love the sound of that band. They're called Arlo Wells. I would love to see a Vancouver rock station champion that band. Great song for those guys called Ghosts. I can't wait to see what these guys are all about live, because of course that's what it's all about. You heard Johnny Rath, and that was their song called Pixie Dust. Good singer. Their latest release is solid as well, by the way. Start to finish, I would put them at near the top of Vancouver's current rock scene. We've had them play a couple, maybe 3 shows now for the podcast at the Railway. Awesome band, tight, they're good guys, ticking off lots of boxes. Speaking of live music, find pandemic distanced and live stream shows, because there are some happening here and there, with the indie scene at toddhancock.ca. If you're playing a show or going to one, let us know about it. We'll post it up there. It's brought to you by Mystic Rhythms Rehearsal Studios, 40 plus years experience in the music industry. You can find out more about them through mysticrhythms.ca. Okay, our final guest of episode 242, this week's entertainment guest, Naked News host Marina Valmont. Brought to you by Tomes. Let them help relieve stress and anxiety. That's TAUMMHOMS.com. TAUMMHOMS.com. Chances are you'll best know Marina Valmont as a Naked News host, but she's also a very popular Twitch streamer. She has a pretty big following. She lost her Instagram account with about 110,000 followers. We talked about that during the full conversation. Since talking to her, by the way, she's gotten them all back. So all is right, all is just. What a drag. Just having your account suspended for nothing. Enough people reporting, haters hating, cancel culture doing its thing. Marina is also doing some content creation for Tempted, but she has more of a hand involved in that project, which you'll hear about in the full 23-minute conversation, which is now posted at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube accounts. Search it out through Toddcast Podcast. Till then, here's 10 minutes with Naked News host Marina Valmont.
The Toddcast Podcast.
You mentioned you're a host on Naked News. Growing up, what did you want to do? Like, is this is it maybe broadcasting and maybe not necessarily being nude, but like, is that what you really wanted to do as a kid?
Well, as a kid, I always wanted to be in the center of the spotlight. I wanted attention, and at some point, I kind of wanted to be a lawyer. But then really? I was like, you know what? That's a little too serious for me. I think I was watching like Ally McBeal and all those legal shows. And I love how they dressed up in like the power suits. So I still get to do that at Naked News. I get to wear my nice, like hot business suits. It comes off eventually.
And the power suit is just so hot. So hot. Mm-hmm. You're also streaming on Twitch.
I am. I'm a popular Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
And how
did you get into that? Because that's fascinating. That's stuff because you can make some serious bank doing that, right?
That's one of the things that allows me to be in Panama right now. So when I stream on Twitch, people can sub, they can donate, they can give me biddies. But I've only been on it for about a year.
Okay.
What triggered me to be on it was I had a friend. She was very successful at it and enjoyed it, but I felt really lonely and isolated during the pandemic. Like we couldn't go anywhere at one point, like just to the grocery store, home.
I know.
The Naked News studio was basically closed down, and like there was nothing to do. I had no one to talk to. So I'm like, you know what? I'm lonely. I'm going to go on Twitch. I'm going to talk to people and just see who I can meet. So I ended up doing a cooking show. I would do fitness. I would sit there and drink on stream, just like you would at the pub.
Yeah.
And it was fun. So I've carried that on.
Interesting.
And I go on once, twice, 3 times a week.
Okay. So
for like
present day, what are you doing? Like, are you still on the cooking thing? Are you doing the fitness still? Or is it kind of whatever you kind of feel like?
It's whatever I feel like. I do a lot of cooking though, because I like to put it with my schedule, and I always cook every day. Every day, that's like my passion to cook fresh food.
Yeah, I love cooking as well. If I wasn't, I've been in broadcasting since '95, but if it wasn't that, it definitely would have been. I would have took, the executive chef. Not that I'm anywhere near that now, but like
it could be.
Maybe. I mean, maybe in my like 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe I'll take a course. But so if you're having friends over pre-COVID or post-COVID, and you're aiming to impress, what are you making in the kitchen?
Ooh, all my friends have some sort of intolerances or allergies. So I definitely, or most of my friends are vegans too. So definitely be something vegetable based.
Yeah.
So maybe like corn on the cob with like a veggie stir fry. But for my meat eaters, it would definitely be like a nice juicy steak or like a stuffed chicken breast.
Yeah. Damn, I love food so
Yeah.
much. Like that for me,
So much.
food and travel are the two things I don't care what it costs. I just don't care.
Yeah, it's quality of life. You gotta treat yourself well. Give yourself something to look forward to. And with COVID and the pandemic, there's not much.
I know. It's almost over. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. You know,
That's true.
It's almost there. So being on Naked News, does that mean that you're a newsie? Like, are you a straight up news geek?
I was like pre-pandemic. Now I've like tapered it down to more like entertainment news and trying not to listen to depressing news.
Right.
But things are getting better in the world. So
yeah, slowly. But you notice that nobody's had a cold in the last year. Nobody's gotten the flu in the last year.
I haven't been sick once. It's amazing.
There's
something to wearing masks. There's something to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was talking to a buddy on Zoom the other day, and we were talking about how Asian people in Vancouver would wear masks pre-COVID, and even to the point where we'd almost mocked them, like, "Nice mask, buddy." Yeah. But now you know that they were doing it for our benefit.
I learned that on a trip to Japan 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I saw people wearing masks and I asked them, I'm like, what is this? Like, why are they doing it? Right. And they told me it's because they're sick and they don't want to infect everyone else. I'm like, oh, that's so considerate. How was I being like so unknowledgeable and rude to kind of mock them before?
Right. Yeah, I think masks, they'll stick around, I think, for a little bit. Not forever, but they'll stick around for a bit. So
I'm a big fan of like the elbow bump and not shaking hands.
Yes, exactly.
I hope that sticks around.
It'll stick around. So we collectively, you and I are content creators. Twitch, Naked News. When you're not creating and you're consuming, what are you binging? Like what are the shows right now that you're binge watching?
I have Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO, and I have Disney Plus. Wow. I'm obsessed with WandaVision. Favorite show. So good.
I read, was it this morning or last night, that so many people jumped on to see the finale that it crashed Disney Plus's server.
Isn't that crazy?
That's impressive. That's a ton of people because they're ready for that, right? They're not messing around. They're ready. And it still crashed their server.
Disney is so intelligent. I love how they put it out like one episode at a time. You had to join the platform to continue to be part of like the MCU. Yeah. And like without joining Disney Plus, you're really left out of like a big part of the storyline.
Yeah, big time. And with the streaming, it almost makes it feel like, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 47. So when you're streaming things, it's one thing you binge through the whole season, but it almost feels like when I was a kid.
The weekly sitcoms.
No more episode than just, and same thing for like The Mandalorian, where they just released that one episode, and it made me feel nostalgic a little bit. It made my kids like, what the hell is going on? Where I was just like, yeah, this is just the way it was. There was a point where you almost like, if you didn't watch TV, there was no PVR. If you missed an episode of Cheers, you missed an episode of Cheers.
And I think it makes you into more of a devoted fan because you're set to go there Friday nights, whatever time it comes out, you're like there. I always wait to like have dinner and eat it. And now I'm like, what do I do with my Friday nights? There's no WandaVision. Can you hurry up with Loki, please?
Yes, I know. And what's the other? There was another series that I read about the other day, and I was like, yes. Silver Surfer, I think they're doing something with. Are you a full-on? Are you a comic book nerd?
I am. I go to Comic Cons, fan expos. I cosplay.
Nice.
And that's something I do on Twitch too.
Okay, so what's the best outfit that you've worn to a Comic-Con?
Ooh, I don't want to be typical with my Harley Quinn answer.
Yeah.
But actually, no. No, I got body painted for New York Comic Con, and I covered it for Naked News. I was Venom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What did they do with
That
your
was-
face and the tongue and all that? And the big ass teeth and
No tongue, but like my body was really cool. I had contacts on, and it was the whole like gray black theme. It was like, well,
very cool.
Really, I scared a lot of people that day.
That's great. If you could have a superpower, which power would you want to have?
Teleportation. I'd want to be here and there just like that.
Boom. But it's not like Nightcrawler teleportation, because Nightcrawler's, he can only teleport where he can. Like, I want teleportation if I want to be at the pyramids right now. I'm going to the pyramids with whatever I can hold. Like, you know, if you, whatever you can carry on your person. So you could teleport.
It could be.
A person.
Yeah, you could teleport with a friend, with a suitcase. I want to be like visiting Captain Marvel in space. I want to be everywhere.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be the most powerful, but that's a pretty awesome power.
Totally. And that'd be the one that I would pick as well. And I pretty much, I mean, I've had probably, I don't know, 500, 700 guests in the last 7 years. And almost 90% of the time I'll ask, because I am such a, like, a lot of my friends are like, dude, why do you always ask that? I'm like, because I'm a fucking comic book geek. And I want to know what people would want. Like, I don't know. It's not your podcast. It's my podcast.
What do they say? What are the typical answers?
Flying. Flying is the most typical. Like, you know, I want to be like Superman, invincibility, you know, that kind of thing. Laser vision. But the smart ones pick teleportation.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Pat on my back there.
Yeah, totally. We were talking about, you know, loving food and stuff. Obviously, you have to, you know, keep up with your appearance. What are your cheat foods?
Oh my gosh. Anything sweet. I love sweet. So like Reese peanut butter cups, peanut M&Ms, like a rich chocolatey creaminess. Oh,
hard to stay.
I'm simple.
Yeah.
But also tiramisu.
Tiramisu, yes. Oh, you know, Greek food has got to be one of my favorites.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
Entertainment guests of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Tomes, where quality sleep matters. Find out more at tomes.com. That's TAUMMHOMS.com.
could really get into having a guy like that around a campfire. His name is Jamie Zago, and a new song for him. It's a new song for the podcast. It's called Better Man Today. Watch for Jamie to make a big push in Vancouver scene this year and next. He's working alongside of Aspire Music Canada, who are grinding it out, making a name for themselves. It's good to see our local scene thriving. Nice work by the guys in Pineapple Sound as well for banging out that tune with Jamie. Sounds great. Looking forward to next week. It's all about near-death stories. You'll hear from 12 guests. It's a crazy week. Some of the stories are absolutely insane. And while former Dead Daisies and Motley Crue singer John Corabi isn't a guest next week, listen to his insane near-death story.
I actually had a guy, it's funny, my ex-wife still won't forgive me for this one, but this was just prior to me being I was in LA. I think I just got in Motley, or it was just prior to me being in Motley. And a guy tried to hold me up, like tried to rob me at a club, behind the club, a club in North Hollywood called the FM station.
Like a gun holding you up?
Well, at first, he was just, he's like, give me your wallet. And I'm like, what? I go, and I'm like, who the fuck are you? We're just going back and forth. And he was getting mouthy with me, and I was getting mouthy back. And my wife was standing there, and he said he was security for the club. I basically said, go check with the club and make sure this dipshit works for the club, whatever. And she walked away, and as she started walking away, he goes, I didn't tell you could move, bitch. Oh. And I fucking lost it. And I go, listen, is she a bitch? Yes, but she's my bitch. You don't get to call her bitch. That's my, you know what I mean? And he pulled a gun and he stuck it in my face.
Wow.
And at that point, like, everything went, oh, and just slowed down.
I know, it's incredible, like those situations, like literally time just like tick.
Dude, it seemed like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I did the dumbest thing. I don't know if it was dumb or if it was genius, but he had it like right at my face. And my like, now I laugh about it, but I literally opened my mouth and I stuck my mouth on the end of the gun.
Wow,
and he just looked at me like puzzled. And I took the gun out of my mouth and I said, see that dude, that bitch, that's my wife. You'd be doing me a fucking favor. Pull the trigger. And I put my mouth back on the gun again. And he just started laughing and walked away.
I mean, that's a crazy story, right? I've personally had a few near-death moments, almost got hit by a train, literally a second away from being smushed. Broke my collarbone in grade 11. I rammed a telephone pole with my shoulder, flying right over the handlebars. It was a 10-speed bike, no brakes, ripping down a pretty good-sized hill in Terrace. Doctor had said, if it was inches over, I likely would have been killed. Everybody's got a story, or most people have one anyway, and that's what you'll hear next week. It's all about near-death stories. Of course, we wanted to give a big thanks to this week's guests as well. Offspring bassist, amongst other things, Todd Morse. Dude, thank you so much for jumping on and being a guest. Can't wait to see the Offspring back on tour. Retired NHL left winger Sean Avery, thank you for taking some time, and thanks to our buddy, our mutual friend Adam Harris, for setting this up. As a longtime hockey fan, of course, I know who you are, and I can appreciate that you take some time to be a guest. And Naked News host Marina Valmont, what else to say but thank you. You're the best. We've been following each other for some time now. I think it's a few years anyway. Just makes sense that you would eventually be a guest. I love what you do, and no doubt we'll talk soon. And that's going to do it for this one, episode 242 in the bag. My name is Todd Hancock. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us. You can subscribe as well on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube as well. We're on the Dean Blundell Network out of Toronto at deanblundell.com. What's up, Diener? Comment and rate the podcast. Search it out through Toddcast Podcast. A huge thanks. We simply couldn't do it without their support. A huge thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors. Find links to all sponsor websites, use their products, etc., etc. ToddHancock.ca has the details. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you can for as little as $10 a day. Contact info is at the homepage. If you'd like to help us find a sponsor, we'll give you money, a commission based on the ad buy. If you know a business that gets outside the box advertising, let's get them in touch with the podcast. Some social media love. Let them know about us. Till next week, don't be an asshole. Nobody wants to be around that. Have fun, play hard, and most of all, believe in yourself.
The Toddcast Podcast. Keep in touch with Todd through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and bookmark toddhancock.ca.
Talmor, Sheshin Magachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go Network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go Network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.